right, so schizophrenic disorders and dissociative disorders. Schizophrenia spectrum and psychotic disorders, positive symptoms. So I wanted to break them down. When we talk about schizophrenia and these disorders, we usually categorize symptoms into two categories. We have positive symptoms and negative symptoms. So to fully understand this, we must understand the definition and grouping of these symptoms. So positive symptoms are changes in thoughts and behaviors that are added on to a person's normal functioning. So that will become a little bit more clear of what that means when we discuss the actual symptoms. So some positive symptoms are delusions, which are deeply held beliefs of altered reality despite contrary evidence. So, for example, a person with schizophrenia may be walking down the street and they pass someone on the street that doesn't look at them, doesn't make eye contact with them, doesn't say anything. They could even be on a cell phone in a different conversation. And that person with schizophrenia is going to believe that, I don't know, maybe that person was flirting with them or something like that. So delusions are just these altered beliefs that really have they have no root in reality. Hallucinations are sort of like delusions in that they have no root in reality, but hallucinations are really regarding the perception of sensory information. So for example, a really common type of hallucination that you see during schizophrenia are auditory hallucinations. A lot of people who have schizophrenia report hearing voices inside their head or hearing a specific voice inside their head without sensory input. So those are the auditory hallucinations. Disorganized thinking, which is we're usually able to tell through the person's speech. When their thought is disorganized, their speech will also be disorganized. And we also have disorganized motor behavior, psychomotor agitation as well. So negative symptoms, on the other hand, are changes that take away from an individual's normal functioning. So negative symptoms, for example, could be a flat affect, which is a decrease in emotional expression, just a complete straight face, regardless of what type of emotion the person is experiencing. Avolition is the lack of motivation or purpose, and alogia is decreased or absent speech. So these are all negative symptoms, and you can see, because if we take the normal state, we look at the normal state of each, we're taking something away. So we consider these to be negative symptoms. So schizophrenia is diagnosed when someone experiences positive and negative symptoms for at least 6 months. These disorders are generally characterized by a distancing of the person from their everyday reality. So these disorders are they're very, very disruptive. And also just a quick note, schizophrenia is not a split personality disorder. DPD is actually a dissociative disorder that we'll talk about in a minute, but that's a very common confusion, that people think schizophrenia means split personalities, which it does not. So dissociative disorders. So in a dissociative disorder, people may lose conscious awareness. They may lose control of their thoughts, perceptions, and emotions. It's just sort of splitting from reality, basically. These disorders result in extremely intense dissociative episodes, and it's usually triggered by severe stressors, even trauma sometimes. So dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as split personality disorder, is one during which at least 2 separate personalities are alternated. So there are at least two different personality states that they will say and maintain that they are 2 different people. So identities may vary in age, gender, personality traits, and a switch to a new personality is often accompanied by amnesia. So if they switch personalities and they were with the other personality for the last 4 hours, the new personality that switches out will not have memory of what that other person did, because they believe that they are 2 different people. DID is kind of controversial, and there are even some psychologists that are extremely weary of its existence and have never seen it in person. So that's sort of a controversial diagnosis just in and of itself. Dissociative amnesia, the individual has at least one episode of forgetting important personal information, and it creates memory gaps usually related to severe stress or trauma. So if during a dissociative episode, a person's wandering aimlessly, they are said to be in a dissociative fugue. So one of the diagnoses in DSM-5 is dissociative amnesia with dissociative fugue. So if someone forgets where they're walking, forgets what their goal is, just wandering aimlessly, that's called dissociative fugue. So the condition usually begins and ends suddenly, dissociative amnesia, and the memories often come back after it. But the issue with that is that if these memories are traumatic, a person may develop PTSD, because one of the reasons why they dissociate is to deal with that trauma. Not to deal with the trauma, but it's a way that they are not having to deal with the trauma, and a way that they're trying to forget it. So once it comes back, dissociation doesn't work and they're faced with the trauma, they could develop something like PTSD. And then we have depersonalization disorder. The person has a constant feeling that they're somehow detached to their physical body or their mental processes. So they may feel as they're an observer to their own self. So they will literally feel like they might not actually be seeing themselves in the third person, but it will feel like this is not my hand. This is not me reaching for my glass. Someone is putting thoughts into my mind. For example, that's depersonalization disorder. It is dissociative. And derealization disorder is similar to depersonalization, but they may feel that people are objects in the external world are unreal. And they might know that the feeling is not accurate. So we call that reality testing, when a person is able to, maintain reality and they're able to understand that something is real or is not real. So since that remains intact, the incongruence can lead to feelings of distress. So if they have this feeling that something's not real and they know that that's not accurate, that's going to give this person even more anxiety, and it's going to give them feelings of distress. So that's one of the hallmarks of derealization disorder as well.